Thank you, brothers and sisters, for that welcome, and thank you for this opportunity to talk with you this evening. I thought a great deal about what's happening to our children in public schools. Now, most of the time when I come over here, that's what I talk to you about, because that's really where my life is centered. But it occurred to me that Alton's been in this struggle, and I'm very concerned about how we're progressing in it. So I thought a lot about it, sisters and brothers, and titled what I want to share with you tonight called Black People Still Don't Get It.
All right.
For some time now, I have been trying to get the idea over that black people must take charge of their lives and those of their children.
All right.
We can't leave this to other people to do.
All right.
Because they're not going to do it.
All right.
And we cannot sit around wringing our hands and shaking our heads and talking.
All right.
It's getting late, brothers and sisters, especially for our children.
Yeah.
Now, when it gets to the point that the way we live is destructive,
All right.
and leads to our extermination,
All right.
then we have to think about what has happened to our culture.
Well.
And we need to take a long, serious look at our condition now.
Amen. Go right there.
Go ahead.
If culture is the sum total of artifacts which any group accumulates in its struggle for survival and autonomy,
All right.
then it's dynamic because it's a struggle. It's not static. It doesn't stand still and never change. It changes with the condition, okay? Because as you try to survive and to be self-autonomous and the conditions change that keep you from doing that, you change in order to combat those conditions.
Yeah.
Am I making sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what is survival? I mean, you know, what survival means that the group has to do at least three things. One, the group has to see that each individual member keeps himself or herself in good enough mental,
All right.
moral, spiritual, and physical health
All right.
long enough to reproduce that self and then take care of whatever you reproduce.
All right.
That's the least.
All right.
If you don't do that, the group dies. It's gone. Okay. So that's what survival means. In order to be self-autonomous, it means that the group has to have within its control the means to assure its survival.
All right.
You can't depend on nobody else to do that.
All right.
That's not going to happen. That's not the way the world works. Now, what are the chief obstacles to survival? Okay? Let's just be real. What are they? One is nature. You got to have within the means of the group some way for the group to survive earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever.
All right.
Right? So nature is one. Other men and women who might want to take your land, water, means of survival.
All right.
And yourself.
All right.
You can't become no cotton-picking drug addict, alcoholic, kill yourself.
All right.
Right?
That's right.
Okay. Those are the obstacles. Now, the culture that we pass down from generation to generation is supposed to help the group to survive and to be self-autonomous. The major way that we pass this culture on is through what? Groups. Family,
All right.
church, school, organizations like this.
All right.
Those are the means. Okay, now, unfortunately for us, we live in a country where the overriding values of the country are against us. For instance, these overriding values put in the positions of privilege people who are white,
All right.
People who are male and people who are wealthy.
All right.
And these three groups dominate the society. So when we talk about teaching our children instrumental values like equality, liberty, fraternity, etc., we are talking about ordering those values under the institutional values of race, gender, and wealth, so that more white people get equality, liberty, and fraternity than black people, more men get equality, liberty, and fraternity than women, and more wealthy people get equality, liberty, and fraternity than poor people. You get it?
All right.
All right.
All right.
It doesn't do enough then, ladies and gentlemen, for us to teach our children about the instrumental values, if we don't teach them the impact of the institutional values on the distribution of the latter. Otherwise, our kids don't get the full message and don't know how to behave. Now, when I was a young woman looking for a job in 1947, the newspapers would advertise, "No Negroes need apply." All right? Chicago, Illinois, March 28, 1947. Chicago, Illinois. I did not say Mississippi.
All right.
North. I was up north. All right? Right. So, what did that say? That said that on March 28, 1947, when I was looking for my first job, affirmative action was for white people. Now, just because we didn't call it that then, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't mean it wasn't. And now that it's our turn to have affirmative action, it's suddenly no turns. No turns. It's always our turn. Right? It's always white people's turn for affirmative action. Nobody else gets a turn. So much for taking turns. But isn't that what we teach for 2 weeks in kindergarten? Oh, the teacher tells you your child has to learn to take a turn. We teach him take a turn in kindergarten, take a turn in first grade, take a turn in second grade, wait your turn in third grade, don't butt in fourth grade, stay in line in fifth grade. When you get to be an adult, you stand and queue up at the cashier. Take your turn, wait your turn. But don't nobody take no turns in this country. It's always the white man's turn. It's always the rich man's turn. It's always their turn.
All right.
So much for taking turns. In 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Plessy versus Ferguson, which legalized Jim Crow, and the overt racism that we knew as Jim Crow was forbidden. And most Negroes, now calling themselves black, thought the problem was solved. Black folks just didn't get it. We just didn't get it. We thought that the problem was segregation. But segregation was a symbol of the problem. The problem was this institutional value system of race, gender, and wealth. That's the problem. And ladies and gentlemen, it still is. The United States is not a democracy yet. It's trying to be. Trying to be. And I always tell my students when they say, "I'm trying to do it, Miss Sizemore," I say, "Come here." And I say, "I'm trying to hit you. I'm trying to hit you. Right? I'm trying to hit you." And then when I finish, I said, "Did I hit you?" And he said, "No." I said, "So much for trying." Right? But the United States is a capitalist country. It is that. Now, if it can be a democracy within the parameters prescribed by the capitalist paradigm, it does it. But when it can't, it won't. The basic premise of capitalism is to make a profit by any means necessary. And the unit of measure is the United States dollar. And ladies and gentlemen, it is taboo to teach this to your children. When I say taboo, I mean it's forbidden. For instance, if anybody gets up in front of a class and tries to teach teach the children about capitalism and how to be a capitalist, they are immediately labeled socialist or communist and run out of the room. All right? It's a taboo. Don't you think that's strange? That in a capitalist country, we cannot teach our children to be capitalists? Oh, think about it. Because you see, in a capitalist country, you are either a capitalist or you are a victim.
All right.
There's no in-betweens.
All right.
There's no in-betweens. You either play the game here or you're a victim of it. Now, you have to make a choice. Of course, you can always leave the country.
All right.
That's another choice. Right? Now, capitalism demands competition, selfishness, and mean-spiritedness. It demands it. But what do they teach your children in school? Be cooperative. Be cooperative. Take your turn. Don't fight. Don't cheat. Now, everybody engaged in capitalism knows that the motto is win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. And what I'm trying to explain to you, ladies and gentlemen, is the real world that our children live in, not the ideal one that we want them to live in, not this wonderful world that we pray that will come here one day, but the real world that they have to live in. You want to know why they're acting so crazy? You want to know why they're doing the things that they're doing? Because we have not prepared them to live in this real world. We have sent them through 12 years of school teaching them this dumb stuff that doesn't work, and when they go out and try to apply it and get killed for it, we are not there to help them through. We are not there. We fade away on them. Somewhere around about 9th grade, we start talking about, I can't control him. I can't do nothing with him. Get out of my house if you don't do what I tell you to do. And we abandon them to the mean streets and then cry because they get murdered. Capitalism is not compatible with equality. It is not compatible with equity. It is not compatible with Christianity, no matter how hard we try. The struggle for survival in the United States is the handling of this never-ending tension between the institutional values of race, gender, and wealth, which give undue and unearned privileges and advantages to some so that others cannot compete on an equal basis for the resources of this country.
All right.
This is the game. This is the game, ladies and gentlemen. As Alton told you, politics is the management of the conflict which occurs when groups war over the resources.
All right.
Resources include money,
All right.
land, right? So politics is just the passing around of the resources.
Right.
If you don't have the resources, as Alton told you, you're not in the game.
Right.
Black people just don't get it.
All right. All right.
We just don't get it.
All right.
Those who are at the bottom form a group which is bound by its cultural artifacts. That's language, religion, tradition, art, music, style, values. And these form a bond of cohesion which, if nourished, does become nationalism.
All right. Right.
But it has to be nourished.
All right.
And it has to be nourished by the group.
All right. Thank you.
How do we do that? Family, church, school, organization,
All right.
Institutions. Okay.
All right. All right.
When it becomes nationalistic, then the group is strong enough to create an economic niche in which can slide to make a living.
All right.
But under capitalism, you must be a producer. You cannot continue to be consumers. African Americans spend more money than, well, there's one group that spends more money than us. We spend. Ladies and gentlemen, this means we do have money.
All right.
We spend it, right? So if you got money to spend, you do have money. This girl lost her father. She was in medical school when I was living in Pittsburgh. This young lady lost her father, and he left enough money for her to go to school, to finish her medical school, but it was in probate in the Pennsylvania court, and so she needed the money to pay her tuition right away. So she came to me and she said, do you think that you could get $5,000 for me to pay my tuition? And she needed it like in 2 weeks. So I went to my block club. We had a nice little block club, you know, all these little middle-class people, professional people up on the hill. They're called Sugar Top in Pittsburgh. And so I went around the block club and I said, can we get $5,000 together to get to this girl so she could get through school? And they just come talking to me, well, we haven't got that kind of money. Now I said, well, let's figure out some way to do it and we'll meet in 3 days. And so during that 3 days, I walked around in the 6-block area in which I live, which is called Sugar Top in Pittsburgh, and I just wrote down all the cars that cost more than $35,000. Now these cars, mind you, costing more than $35,000 was sitting out on the street. They didn't have garages to put them in. So I went to the next 3-day meeting and I had the long list of cars and I said, look, sisters, I said, look at all these cars that white people are parking in front of our houses. Because obviously, if we didn't have no money, we couldn't be buying $35,000 cars, right? Okay, so the sisters forked up the money and we got it to the girl. But my point is that we say we don't have any money, but funny enough, we got money to buy all of these clothes and all of these cars and all these rings. I see brothers and sisters with 9 pounds of gold hanging around them, talking about they ain't got no money. Well, I guess not if it's all on plastic. But that's another problem. That's another problem. You must try to be plastic free.
All right.
The plastic makes you a victim. The plastic makes you a victim. You will never participate in the capitalist process as a winner if you are a victim.
All right.
Then the brother came to me and he told me, he said, all this old capitalism crap you talking about, he said, you ought to shut up because we don't want to be engaged in capitalism. I said, show me your wallet. So he took out his wallet. I said, ain't no money in it. He said, no. I said, well, how you live? Where you live? Because I got to pay rent where I live. Where you live at? You don't have to pay no rent. What do you eat? Because every time I go to the Jewel, they want long green pictures of dead presidents.
All right.
I mean, hey, man, be real. You can't live in the United States of America without any money.
That's right.
I don't know a problem that our people have that would not be solved by more money.
Right.
Now you see me afterwards. You see me afterwards if you got a problem that money won't solve, because I want to know about it, because I'm making a list of them.
All right.
Because in a capitalist country, you see, that's the whole gig.
That's right.
That's the whole gig. The whole gig is to make everything cost money. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, everything is for sale.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Everything.
That's Jesse Jackson.
Now, if you want to change things around here, I'm with you. I'm for you. But in the meantime, while you changing, you got to eat. Because if you don't eat, you're going to be one dead revolutionary.
All right. All right.
So let's be real. I'm trying to stick to what's real, ladies and gentlemen, because it's this tension between what's real and what's ideal that's killing our kids because they don't know how to deal with it. Okay, what's the problem here? The problem here is that the economy has been restructured.
All right.
So that the jobs that people used to get with little or no education have now disappeared.
All right.
In order to get one of those jobs, you now have to commute to Taiwan.
All right.
Or Mexico City.
All right.
Or Haiti. You got to commute for those jobs now, ladies and gentlemen. They're not in Brooklyn. Okay? So those jobs are gone. So what are our people doing now that those jobs have disappeared? Using their usual creativity to create new ones. But where is the opening for these new creative endeavors? In drugs.
All right.
We don't have a drug policy in the United States. I know you know better than that.
All right.
We don't have a drug policy. We got a prison policy, but no drug policy. 80% of the cocaine used in the United States is used by white people.
All right.
80%. But look at television every night. Do you see them going to jail?
No.
Because that's not the way the business is structured.
All right.
You see, the drug industry is now a part of the gross national product. And they can get rid of it if they wanted to. Everybody's, mad at Kurt Schmoke because he said, and Joycelyn Elders because they're talking about legalizing drugs. How nobody gonna legalize drugs? You don't have to take those two people seriously. It's not gonna happen because people make too much money off it. Not us. Not us. We're getting killed and going to prison. But that's part of the deal too. Look at this capitalist plan now. Look at it. What did I tell you was to make a profit by any means necessary. Right? Okay, how you make a profit here? Well, you build the prisons. Where are these prisons built? In New York City? In Brooklyn? Oh, where are the prisons built?
Upstate.
Who lives there? Okay, then who's going to build these prisons, ladies and gentlemen? Who's going to provide the guards in these prisons, ladies and gentlemen? I rest my case.
All right.
Going to provide jobs, both construction, maintenance. Okay, that's where the job's going to be in prison. All right, now let's look at where the money goes. A sociologist named Troy Duster at the University of California, Berkeley, has been studying the drug business. Troy is a brother. He's a sociologist. And what he noticed is that there are layers, just like in any other hierarchy, right? There's guys at the top, guys at the bottom. Okay, as you come, the top, the international cartel that runs the drug business, it's on top. Those are the international owners of the drug business. And then underneath them is a layer of international distributors. These are the people that distribute drugs all over the world. Then underneath them is a loose network of international bankers. They launder the money so that it can be distributed into legitimate business. And it is this money that's fueling the economy now.
That's it. There you go.
So if you're looking forward to drugs disappearing, you are really naive.
That's right.
Black people just don't get it.
That's right.
They just don't get it.
That's right.
The bottom of the industry, the street industry, is run by poor black and Latino people, or anybody else that's poor want to get in it. Now these are the people selling on the street, so they get caught and they get put in jail. Now, the part of the drug business that's used by the middle class elite gives you less time in jail than that sold to the poor. So as you come down the line from the international cartel, you get blacker and blacker and blacker. Okay? And the punishment starts with the street level.
All right.
No bankers go to jail.
That's right.
No bankers go to jail.
That's right.
The field regional representatives in the country, they don't go to jail.
Right.
The couriers go to jail. The street distributors go to jail.
That's right.
The managers of the distribution in the poor communities go to jail.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's easier to put them in jail. Because they have no group that helps them to survive.
That's right.
So these people come from the dysfunctional groups in the society.
All right.
These are the groups whose culture doesn't save them.
All right. All right.
Because the people haven't had enough sense to save their culture.
All right. All right. All right. All right. All right.
Black people just don't get it.
All right.
We just don't get it. We just don't get it.
All right.
Other groups come in this country, they get it right away.
All right.
And we get mad at them because they get it.
All right. That's it.
I've been away from Chicago for 20 years. I came back 2 years ago. I walked down, I couldn't believe what I was seeing on 47th Street. The stores are all owned by Arabs and Koreans. These were stores that used to be owned by black people. Now none of them are. They work from dawn to sunset. They're in these stores all day long, selling us what we need. They have their families working in there. They don't hire nobody. Black people out there picketing, talking about they don't hire no black people. Ain't nobody in there. Everybody's related. They're all family. I said, how you going to get a job in there? You're not Korean, fool.
That's right.
You got to be in their family to work there.
That's right.
When the Nation of Islam began buying up 79th Street in Chicago in the 1960s, I thought we finally had gotten it.
All right.
But this effort was lost in the usual ego struggles of African American men.
All right.
Ego struggles have spoiled more freedom efforts in my lifetime than I would care to stand up here and talk to you about.
Thank you very much.
In fact, I have been involved in so many that now I just refuse to join another movement.
That's right.
We must learn to work together as a group. Alton talked to us about that tonight. I won't repeat it because he talked to us about that. We must learn to do this, ladies and gentlemen, because everybody does it if they get out of poverty in this country. They work together as a group. They work together as a group. If we are to survive and be autonomous in the United States, we must change our way of looking at living. Our culture is no longer functional because we've lost so much of the culture that used to save us. Our children are killing each other and us because we are not paying attention to what is happening to them.
All right.
Alton made reference to the prisons. That's the second part of the gross national product. In every state, they are building these prisons to put our people in order to get us out of the labor market and then to exploit us by providing jobs for them. Either way you look at it, going into the drug industry to try to be a businessman at the lower end where you get killed, or going to prison, we're still, once again, exploited, enslaved, used for others to become wealthy so they can be rich. We spend a lot of time being resentful of Koreans and Hispanic people and Arabs who are trying to use this system the way that we should be using it. Now, why don't we do this? Let's look at that for a minute.
All right.
You remember when I told you about we tell our kids all the time in school, take a turn, but in the real world you don't take a turn? Okay. We also teach our kids that there's something wrong with being separate. As soon as we get a little money, we want to be as close to white people as we can get.
All right.
We want to live in their neighborhoods. We want to go to their schools. We want to marry them. We just got the problem.
All right.
We just have the problem. We don't like us. All right? We don't like us. That's a big problem, ladies and gentlemen. It's a big problem. As soon as we get a little bit of money, we want to run away from us. Now, what do other groups do? They run together.
Right.
And the first stage of that inclusion model is called separatism. And they come together because they have a common culture that saves them from these obstacles. Right? Okay. We need to think about being separate. We need to stop being afraid of nationalism, because we're afraid of it.
All right. All right.
We're afraid of it.
Talk to us.
And our enemies want us to stay afraid.
That's it. All right.
Because next to God, nationalism is the most powerful organizing force that man knows.
All right. All right. All right. All right. All right.
The most powerful is God. And if you don't believe me, Look at the fundamentalist right, how they are driving abortion out of this country
All right. That's
without changing the law.
right.
How are they doing it? Killing doctors,
All right.
shooting them.
All right.
See, that's what a powerful dynamic will do for you. If we had a powerful God dynamic, our kids wouldn't be killing each other. They might be killing somebody else, but it wouldn't be each other.
That's it. That's it. That's
But we don't have that. We don't have a powerful God dynamic. We used to, but we don't more. Next to that is nationalism. That's the next most powerful dynamic you have for organizing people.
it. All right.
Now, at one time, we had a model, and that was the Nation of Islam. And they were using it to death, but ego killed it. In her paper, Whiteness as Property, Harvard Law Review, June 1993, Cheryl I. Harris argues that whiteness is built on both exclusion and racial subjugation. And this is how she says it's used. Race has not only been constructed as race, but also as a privilege. That's why we got this hair problem. Today in the United States, race is determined by visibility and reputation, because there are over 1 million African Americans passing for white every day. And if you make friends with some of them, they will give you some powerful bits of information about the other folks that help you. And remember what Alton told you, information is power. Right? I seek them out at any institution I go to. I try to see if I can find out who's passing. Now, you can't tell on them now. That ain't the point. I want the information. Tell me what these doctors do in this hospital when they come in here. Tell me how they treat us when we come in here, because I want to know before I bring my mama over here. And they'll tell you. That's if you don't turn them in. All right? Okay. Harris argues that the decision to pass as white was not a choice, if by that word one means voluntariness or lack of compulsion. She says that the fact of race subordination was coercive and circumscribed the liberty to self-define. In other words, because you are black, your ability to define yourself is limited in this. And passing for white frees you of that limitation. So she says if that is true and you want to define who you are, then it might not be voluntary. Now, my interaction with some of these people is that they passing for white in order to what? Survive and have self-autonomy. Okay? Now let's look at the real world that makes you want to do that. And then let's think about those of us who can't if we wanted to. I mean, you think I'd get away with it? I'd go out and say, I'm passing for white. I don't think so. Self-determination of identity is not a right for us. It's not a right for us. But it's a privilege for white people. Right? So the effect of protecting whiteness at law was to devalue those who were not white by coercing them to deny their identity. So I straighten my hair. I whiten my skin. I cut off my nose. I fix my lips. I cover up my heels and wear a girdle on my butt so I can look what? White. Because that's the identity that I want. Now this is the crux of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, for our children. And we have chosen, and I say chosen because we didn't have to do this, we have chosen to destroy the main weapon for survival, which is our identity.
Uh-oh. All right.
And this has posed a severe problem for us and for our children. Because if I don't like who I am, I'm hardly going to raise a child who does. Because my child is a mirror of me.
All right. All right.
The way out is through mobilization of the group to struggle for the survival of the individual.
All right.
And you have to understand that black folks just don't get it.
All right.
I'm not giving up my individual right to sacrifice for the group. That's not what it's all about. Hey, the problem with that is the Constitution gives you individual rights, but you can only protect them as a group.
All right.
See, that's the problem.
All right. All right.
That's the problem.
Say that again.
To survive, the group must ensure that each individual member is able to take care of himself or herself, reproduce himself or herself, and take care of the progeny. And we are losing the group function. It doesn't matter where. We're losing it in the family. We're losing it in the church. We're certainly losing it in the school. We're losing it in the community. We're losing it in our institutions. Our families are disrupted. Only 26% of all African American children live with both parents. Our churches are predominantly female, 80%. Our schools are mostly dysfunctional. Children do not learn anything in them. And our communities are disorganized. No leadership, no resources, no support. Black people still don't get it. We don't get it. We just don't get it. That it's the group function that's going to carry us through. It's the group function. Individual members working together as a group in order to take care of their own children, take care of their own poor and elderly, take care of their own disorganized and mentally ill. We can't even get control of the NAACP. This is our largest organization, and we can't even get control of it.